So I think we're going to start to get into the ground rules here. So if you're not with family, all right, try to spread out one seat if you're not with family, because that's the way it's going to work this year. All right, a little distance. All right, I'll give people just a couple seconds to get settled, and then we'll get going. Class of 2023. Woo. I think it's okay. Yeah. All right, so let's get going. My name is Andrew Pasca, as you see right there, the Dean of College Counseling. This is my 18th year at Lake Forest Academy, so LFA is my home. I live on campus with my wife, Olivia, who teaches AP Art History as well as English, and my daughter, Eleanor Barbara, who we call Evie. The rest of the team that's assembled here, I'll introduce them briefly. We have Carolyn Gorowski back there, who's admissions counselor, head of admissions and college counselor extraordinaire. Ben Weatherby, also college counselor, associate dean of college counseling, and Mia Rogers, associate dean of college counseling. And we really work together. So even if you're assigned one of us, you're really assigned all of us, because we talk all the time. We get along really well. We're in and out of each other's offices, and we believe that that we don't own all the best ideas, so we really rely on one another to get good guidance. But welcome everyone tonight. This is always a fun meeting. I know for a lot of parents, it's wrapped with a little bit of anxiousness as you start to think about your children getting ready to go off to college, which is a mile marker in your lives. And for students that are starting to think about, where they may want to venture off into the world post-LFA. And in this meeting, I often talk about, the reflection that I've done over the summer on the work that I do with students, on how we do it, on how students kind of negotiate the process, on how parents negotiate the process, and so this summer, after 18 years, I have a couple, 2 or 3, things that haven't changed and have stayed true for a long, long time. And one thing that I think is starting to change a little bit in college admissions practices across the country. So the things that haven't changed. Students get themselves into college. It's plain and simple, right? The transcript that you're going to put forth to a college admissions office is going to a large extent dictate the decision that gets rendered. So whatever story that transcript is telling right now, you still have 2 years, or at least a solid year, to keep the momentum up, or maybe to change that narrative just a little bit. So this is an important year, and one where I think colleges are looking for you to take ownership of your education, and hopefully to keep growing. I mean, that's the overall goal, is to keep growing. So students get themselves into college. The transcript is the most important document that you will send. That's number one. The second one, and parents that have been around long enough have heard me say this many times before, the college process, when done well, is a test of self-awareness. The better you understand yourself, the better list that you build, the better you'll write about yourself in the college process, and probably the happier you'll be once you get to a place. So knowing thyself is a really important piece to the college admissions puzzle. And one thing I'll add to that is that, knowing yourself is important, But the other person that's going to know you really well in the process is your college counselor. You know, the first couple meetings, first 2, 3, 4 meetings that we have with college counselees aren't about college at all. They're about how high school has gone. And so we want to get to know you as people so that we can best advise you. And so it's not about strategy, it's not about how to game the system, it's really about, you know, how high school has gone and how you can see yourself growing and developing at that next spot. And finding synergy between how high school has gone and a program, a campus, a community that really fits with your aspirations. The third piece that's changed somewhat since I started, and I've thought about this a little bit this summer, is the idea of a college admissions office evaluating students as community members. I think that's become more and more important. As you know, communities locally, nationally, internationally are pretty strained right now. And college admissions offices see themselves as agents of change. They want to quote the University of Michigan, create the leaders and best of tomorrow. And so part of that is evaluating an admissions, an application based on a student's community potential and the perspective that they'll bring and how well they'll listen to their peers and the fact that they will take their authentic selves into the college moment and onto that campus. And this really hit home with me as I was watching the Olympics in a short piece that I'm going to show to you right now. I think hopefully it brings my message kind of full circle. And so we'll go from there. So next slide.
The legacy of Tokyo 2020 may not be measured in medals or COVID cases, but acts of kindness, moments of grace, Olympians choosing humility over hubris. American gymnast Simone Biles cheering on her teammates even as she was struggling to compete. American swimmer Annie Laser hugging her South African competitor Tatiana Schoenmaker, who broke a world record to win gold.
To have someone right next to me break the world record, just as a fan of the sport in general, that's something that's pretty amazing to happen to you.
Given that there were no spectators and you were in this bubble in the middle of a pandemic, do you think that brought the athletes closer, this experience?
Definitely more of a sense of, we're just really happy that this is happening, really happy to be here.
Happiness written on the faces of the first ever Olympic skateboarders.
Skateboarding is one big family. Probably getting on the podium with two of my one of my favorite people is awesome.
I think that, we're seeing that camaraderie between athletes now. There's always something good that comes from something bad, and I think this is part of what the pandemic has done is created a better community of athletes that are supporting each other under very difficult conditions in Tokyo. To be supporting each other is huge.
Support spanning across continents and badminton courts. When Denmark dethroned China to win gold in the men's singles, the players traded shirts as a symbol of respect. These Qatari and Italian high jumpers, friends and competitors for years, opted out of a jump-off, deciding to share the gold.
It was just amazing, and sharing with a friend is even more beautiful.
Thank you.
There were high fives and helping hands. After falling during the 800-meter, these runners from the US and Botswana finished the race arm in arm. A legacy of kindness and camaraderie, outshining even the Olympic flame. Will Ripley, CNN, Tokyo.
All right, the next slide. All right, so my portion of this program is almost done, but that really was, it resonated with me, and I hope it resonated with you, and this is kind of a call to be good community members this year. Something that you haven't had a chance to really go 100% at yet in your in a while. And so that's the club fair there. Let's embrace community. Let's embrace being kind to one another, all right? Because the better community member that you are here, the better community member that you'll be in college, the better member of a team that you'll be at a company, organization, other school moving forward. So this is really laying the foundation. So this is part of the college prep mission, being good community members. And next up, I'll introduce Ben Weatherby. Or Mia. Mia's next. Okay, Mia.
Okay. You can go to the next slide. Perfect. So today we want to talk with all the families who are here, the parents, the guardians, the students, really about how much the college admission process, as well as the landscape of higher education as a whole, has really changed over the years. Colleges just aren't what they used to be. So here you see on this slide is a chart with the admission rates for the class of 2021. Some of these are for the class of 2020 instead. And you'll see there's an asterisk next to them. And it's for a variety of reasons. For some of them, they just haven't updated their statistics yet for this upcoming class. And for others, like Stanford, they've decided they're no longer going to publish acceptance rates anymore. So this gives you a kind of sense of the general acceptance rates at different institutions and what that looks like. Just a representative sample, though these are some pretty selective institutions. For example, you can see here we have Vanderbilt University, which I hope many of you are familiar with. Their acceptance rate this past year was 7%. So I'm curious to hear from the audience, if you could go back to 2001, so 20 years ago, 2 decades ago, what do you think their acceptance rate was at Vanderbilt? 38. Anyone else? 21. Any other guesses? Okay, at 38, 21. You can go and click for the next piece. So their acceptance rate was 56%. So this is you can see a huge change. You can kind of compare in the last 20 years how much colleges and universities have changed in so many ways, and not just in their acceptance rates. You really get a sense just of the broad scope of the landscape in a different way. And we say all this just to make sure you're keeping this in mind. We want to make sure as you create your college list, you're being thoughtful of the range of institutions that you may apply to, but that also all of you are being open-minded. You know, colleges have changed in many ways, not just in their acceptance rates, but also in their reputation, their academic programs, their facilities. Like, really have an open mind about the different institutions you may be looking at as you move forward in this upcoming year. Oh, I guess you do have to go to the next slide. The clicker does not work. As you kind of try to curate that college list, you want to make sure you're getting to know colleges in different ways. A lot of colleges opened up this past summer and allowed college visits, and we hope that more will do that in this fall. But you can still really connect with them virtually as well. This is a screenshot of Claremont McKenna College in Southern California, and they have a whole virtual page where you can do virtual information sessions, virtual campus tours, virtual student panels. Take advantage of those resources at different institutions. You can do U-Visit college campus tours. You can go on their YouTube channels if you're a YouTube fan. A lot of colleges will publish different content, and it really gives you a good sense, what are they highlighting about their particular institution? Campus Reel is another great resource where students themselves kind of do more a day in the life videos to give you a sense of the campus culture. So do as much research as you can on different colleges and universities. In the coming year, you have a lot of time to make that college list, and again, do it with an open mind. Go to the next slide. You all were hopefully given a handout. If you don't have one, like maybe raise your hand and we'll try to make sure that one gets to you. And this is just a quick timeline about the road ahead, like what you see upcoming in this next year, this next junior year. And so it's a pretty comprehensive list with a lot of key dates and information, but there are a few things we definitely want to highlight for you today. First and foremost, by the end of September, you will be assigned a college counselor. We are really excited to work with all of you. As Mr. Pasca said earlier, just because you're assigned one college counselor and you're working with one person, we are all a resource for you. Like, feel free to connect with any of us in the college counseling office. And so we're excited to make those assignments, and we'll send you an email to let you know by the end of September. In October, we will have the PSAT here at LFA. It's the practice SAT. It's not something you really need to prepare for in any way. Don't feel like you have to study for it. But it'll give you a good sense of whether or not the SAT is the right test for you. Maybe you want to explore the ACT. A lot of colleges and universities have been test optional last year because of COVID and will remain so this year. But the future in that is still a little uncertain, so you want to make sure you're preparing yourself adequately for what may come in the future. And then I would say the most important thing to note is that on January 30th, we're going to have our junior college workshop. This is a mandatory event, and it's going to be an amazing time. We'll invite different admission representatives from a variety of institutions to come to LFA and to do a college application workshop with all of you. When I worked in college admission, I came to LFA for this very event, and it was a great opportunity to connect with students and families and really talk with them about what I did in admissions and how that played a role in the college application process. So if you use Google Calendar, if you use a planner, whatever you use, mark this on your calendars now. That date's not going to change. January 30th, noon to 4 p.m., block it out in your schedules. It's going to be an amazing time. But if you have any questions about what's on the upcoming agenda for the school year, feel free to reach out to us at collegecounseling@lfanet.org at any time. We're happy to elaborate further on anything that's on this list. All right, thank you. I think next is Ben.
So I've heard a lot of interesting pronunciations of this word up here, from squire to score. But this is something that both you as students and parents are going to get familiar with over the course of the next 1.5 to 2 years. I'll also make a quick plug before a short video is going to play that's going to basically give you a really quick introduction to this software, which is what the College Counseling Office uses to conduct this college search and application process. But I wanted to make sure I gave a quick plug for the College Counseling website on LFA's homepage. I'm not going to go through it today, but there's a ton of great information on there about where our students have gone last year, where our students have gone in the last 4 years. There's a Google map that shows all of the different places that our students have been admitted or have enrolled. So as you're planning visits or as you're looking at schools and want to know where to start amidst the almost 2,000 four-year undergrad offerings that are in the US alone, that can be a good place to begin. So next slide, please. And it's about a 4-minute video, so you guys are going to have to put up with my voice here for a little bit. Next click, yep.
All right, everyone. I just wanted to take a quick moment to show both students and parents some basics about SCORE, which is the platform that the LFA College Counseling uses to both manage the college search and the college application process. Right now, I am signed into the student view of a SCORE account that you will all be receiving an email next week with an invitation to create an account, as will parents. There are both parents and student accounts. But I just wanted to show you some quick pieces of this that could be useful to you as you begin your college search process. The first thing I'm going to call your attention to is down here on the bottom right. Upcoming college visits, schools that will be visiting LFA during the months of September and October. Usually there's about 150 schools that will visit us during that period of time, and juniors are invited to meet with those visiting college reps, whether their visit be in person or remote this year, so long as they don't have a class that conflicts with that visit. So if you have a free period, you're more than welcome to meet with these colleges, and of course during senior year you'll be able to miss class to meet with these visiting college reps. So that's one location where students can find a little bit more information about the upcoming college visits this fall. There is also a second location that I will show you a little bit later on the College Counseling homepage of the LFA website. So the basic thing that I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of was this database of colleges that is at your disposal here. And so right now I've got it filtered so that it only includes undergraduate schools with 4-year bachelor degrees from the US. And on the left-hand side, you're going to see a bunch of different filtering criteria that students, parents can use to begin to sift through this list and identify schools that could be a good match or fit, depending on what criteria you might be looking for in a school. So I'm going to do a shameless plug right now for my alma mater, Knox College, located in Galesburg, Illinois. And this is their SCORE homepage. You'll see some basic information about cost, acceptance rate, admission profile information, some information about student life, and I know Ms. Rogers mentioned earlier, Campus Reel. These are all student videos that are posted that you will be able to access. There's some more information about retention rate, the number of undergrads, geographic diversity of the campus, the overall diversity of the school overall, information about popular majors, all of their fields of study, custom financial aid information, and then where the school is located as well. There's a second piece of information here called the wall, which is an aggregate of all different social media accounts. So Facebook, Twitter, whatever it might be, you'll find relevant or recent posts that appear on this wall that you can feel free to look at. And then on this upper banner is also an embedded virtual campus tour that most colleges will now have on their SCORE homepage, but not all. And so this is a good opportunity to, again, as Mr. Rogers mentioned, you visit.
Knox College. I'm here to tell you about the human-powered Knox experience.
This gives you an opportunity to go and explore different parts of campus with a guided tour. And schools have obviously invested a lot of a lot of money into making sure that these are as powerful as they can be given COVID and the fact that lots of students have had to visit these schools remotely. So that's the quick rundown of SCORE. If you go to the College Counseling homepage on the LFA website, you'll also find a location where you can see the list of upcoming school visits. So college visit calendar, scroll down to the bottom, we're in the month of August, let's scroll across to September, and you'll see that this is beginning to get filled up. This will be entirely filled up by probably the second week of school with colleges that are coming to visit LFA. And you'll be able to see if these are in person or remote. Obviously remote will have a virtual link attached. So right here, the University of Toronto will be visiting, that's their Zoom link that students will be able to sign up for and attend if they so choose. But again, not the end of the world if as juniors you're not able to make those. So that's a quick rundown of SCORE, how you can register or locate what schools will be visiting LFA this fall, and just a couple of the features as it relates to beginning to search schools and beginning to learn a little bit more information about each of them.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Next slide. Perfect. So hopefully that's a quick intro to that software that you, as I said, will become much more familiar with over the next year and a half. But what I thought I'd do for the remaining 10 minutes or so that we have, 10, 15 minutes, is go through a couple of frequently asked questions that we get in our office a lot that hopefully are pertinent to you or that you may have already asked yourself or plan on asking us. And that first one is, I don't know what I want to study. So how can I begin the college search process? So I see a lot of familiar parent faces that have had siblings go through the process, so you're going to be familiar with this exercise that I've gone through at previous presentations. But students, I want to see you raise your hand. It's going to be hard for me to catch you guys up at the back, but raise your hand if at some point during the last year and a half, 2 years, I know COVID's obviously been present, so maybe pre-COVID or maybe at a virtual family gathering, whatever it might be, has Uncle Sam asked you or Aunt Susan asked you, hey, Billy, I know you're going to be a junior in high school next year. Do you know what you want to study yet? What do you want to major in? Do you know what you want to do? Any careers, anything that you think you might want to study yet? Raise of hands if that's been a question that's been cast your way. All right, quick look around the room. I see a lot of students with hands up. All right, perfect. Drop those hands. All right, parents, next question is for you. I want you to raise your hand if and only if you have known what you wanted to do in life when you were a junior in high school, and you have done that and only that up until this point in your life. Quick show of hands. We got a couple, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, this is the high. I've done this exercise for a little bit. 6 might be the record, so not a ton, right? How about parents? Who is still trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up? A lot, right? So students, you need to shed this notion that you need to know what you want to do for the rest of your life, let alone what you might major in order to start this process. In fact, if you did know exactly what you wanted to do, I would make a bet with you because the odds would be in my favor. Not that I bet a lot, but the National Center for Education Studies says that 80% of students change their major at least once in college. The average student changes their major 3 times in college. The U.S. Department of Labor came out with a study, I think it was last fall, maybe it was last summer, don't remember, that said 65% of students that are in high school right now are preparing for jobs that do not exist yet, that you will hold jobs that are yet to be created. So hopefully that lowers the anxiety a little bit, that you have to know exactly what it is that you want to do in order to go through this process. So that's frequently asked question number one. Let's get to, and then third, yes, okay, lean on us, yes, love this picture. As Mr. Posca alluded to earlier, we are going to be your greatest ally and advocate in this process. The better that we get to know you, the better that we're going to be able to do our job. So in helping to kind of make this process work, let us in, because we want to help you help yourself. But I just love this image. I got to work this in there in all of my presentations. So, all right, second frequently asked question, and this has been a popular one, right? It comes up across all the parents I meet with, whether you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. When should we be thinking about the SAT or ACT? And then to follow that up, obviously with COVID and the number of schools that have adopted test optional or test-free policies, do we still need to take these exams with so many schools going that test optional route? Next slide, please. So last spring, one of the test companies that we work and partner with, and many of you have probably seen presentations on because we host them every spring, is Compass. And in my opinion, Compass is probably the nation's leading experts in testing. They publish all sorts of research and findings, not only in addition to their tutoring services. I don't get a cut. I'm not plugging them, but they do have a lot of really good content, and whenever I need to find something, they're usually the people I go to. And so I was fortunate, or LFA was fortunate enough to be invited to present with them at a conference last spring, the Illinois Association of College Admission Counseling. And I thought I'd pull a couple of slides from that presentation that I think might resonate or give you some information about how this last year panned out. With all of these schools, with I think 98% of schools that are quote unquote in the most selective 400 category had test optional policies. So next slide, please. So just a quick breakdown of the different schools and the different testing optional policies they had, whether it was a one-year trial, a multi-year trial, whether they were test-free completely, or whether it was going to be a permanent move. Next slide. And this was the results of last year. So on the Common App, which is again, another word that you get, we have a lot of words in college admission. You're going to learn that pretty quick. We also have a lot of acronyms. But 44% compared to 77% of students that applied on the Common App, which again is the majority of the way that students apply to college these days, submitted test scores, right? So that's a pretty significant reduction in scores. And I'm not going to run through all of this data because I think that that would just be a bit of a kill of time. But that's pretty much the biggest takeaway I want you to have from there, that although testing volume was down, you're going to see on these next few slides that it was still as rampant as ever at the highly selective schools. So next slide. So this is a quick chart. There's going to be two slides that just show a smattering of different schools, obviously highly selective schools that lots of our students are interested in, and the percentage of those schools that admitted students who had testing versus students who did not have testing. The orange or red bar, whatever it looks like to you on the screen, was the percentage of admits with testing versus the blue that did not have testing. And then next slide. Yeah, one more, sorry. Oh, sorry, go back one, my bad. That's on me. And obviously you can see a significant outlier in Georgetown in terms of the disparity. So although these schools have gone test optional, it has been our experience that submitting testing is still a big part of the process if you can take it. And I would say these numbers are probably going to be even more drastic considering the fact that last year almost all of the international students across the globe could not take testing because that wasn't available outside of the US. Okay, next slide. And so these are just a couple of quotes from various admission offices, I think Yale, Georgetown, and the University of Santa Barbara, from the deans of admission there in terms of how they perceive testing and what their plans might look like moving forward. I think this definitely parallels with the conversations that we've had with colleagues this spring and summer about how they plan on moving forward and what they imagine admission kind of cycles to look like in the future as testing becomes, again, a little bit more available than it was this past year. And then next slide. I think this is my last slide. These were the key takeaways. So from this presentation, I think the most important thing to realize is that although these standards for admission may have become more open and more available, it hasn't made any of these schools any less popular or competitive to get into. If anything, it has led to them becoming even more difficult to get into. And so we definitely want to make sure that we are dispelling any myth that the testing piece of the puzzle is no longer. If that is something that is not a strength as well, you should also know that there is a ton of schools, and as you kind of think through, and this is probably getting into the minutia a little bit, of probably smaller places that probably embrace more of a holistic view of admission that have de-emphasized the role of testing. So I think at the schools, like New York University became the first private school in the country to eclipse 100,000 applications when you think of other large systems, the UCs, big schools. Those are the places where I think testing is here to stay, whereas at the smaller liberal arts kind of places or other schools, I would say that testing, I think Mia, Mr. Posky, you guys would agree, has probably become a little bit more de-emphasized. So I want to make sure I'm respectful of everybody's time. I know we've got the seniors coming in here next, but I'll close by saying that we are very much looking forward to working with your sons and daughters. It's great to see and put faces to names, and I hope that you will continue to use us as a resource as you move forward with this process. And the only dumb question is the one that you don't ask. So thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for being here today for the programming. Mr. Posky, you got one more thing? Meetings. Oh yes, absolutely. Even though you won't be assigned a college counselor until the end of September, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to pick up the call or pick up the phone to call us or email. And as Ms. Rogers said, our cycle meetings won't begin until second semester. But again, that doesn't mean that you can't meet with us to talk about a testing plan, to talk about a college list, or some schools that maybe you're going to go visit when you're going out to visit family over the holiday season, perhaps. So yeah, don't hesitate to reach out. We want to be there to be the best resource that we can. Cool. Thanks, everybody.